What does the term speaker hall mean to you? What do you think of? Do you think of an area or a building where a person would give a lecture? No, that would make sense. Today, that term is going to mean something different. We're going to be talking about a different kind of speaker, such as yay, and we're going to be talking about a different kind of hall, as in HAUL. So, set this guy down. I have a bunch of boxes to open. I already cracked that one open. And I've been getting in more speakers for my speaker shootout that I'm doing. It's not so much a shootout as it is a comparison, I guess. But I've inappropriately dubbed it the Great 12-Inch American Vintage Speaker Shootout because it started out as me deciding what speakers I wanted to put in my Deluxe, my Fender Deluxe, my Deluxe Reverb, and my Twin Reverbs. So those were all 12-inch vintage American speakers that I was rolling through and trying some different stuff. And it grew from there. Like, it really was just me rolling speakers through and doing recordings in a controlled setting, reamping some pre-recorded tracks through, same cab, mic, cabs, mics, and process, and just going through and then going back to listen. And I realized as I was doing that like I'm collecting this like kind of valuable piece of data here that I haven't seen out there. I mean, there's tons of new speaker comparisons, and there might be like, you know, one or two new speakers compared to this one old one. Like, okay, that's cool. And then there's like Johan Sageborn's channel, I hope I said his name right, who is just, it is so awesome. I absolutely love his work. There's a vast amount of resource there for vintage British speakers. But I didn't find anything quite like that for American vintage speakers. So I thought, like, I've got a lot of the information here already. Let's roll with it. And it kind of grew from there. I was like, well, I also have a lot of vintage British speakers. So, you know, people do, it's a popular thing to put a Celestion and a Fender amp. So let's roll with that. And, you know, kind of start putting in a couple of my classic vintage British speakers too. And I realized, like, well, if I'm going to have any vintage British speakers, I'm going to have, people are going to want to hear like a known modern reference. So I thought, like, I'll include, like, you know, Celestion's like basic G12M greenback, and then their high-end G12M greenback, which is the Heritage, although they've discontinued it since, but it's still included in this. So that there's a baseline, a reference point, and I think I included one other modern G12M variant, a popular one, because if I didn't, I would take grief for not being complete. You know, I didn't want to leave it out. I didn't want to put together this great wealth of information comparing all these. I have like 130 tracks recorded in Logic already, so I don't want to have all of this information together and all these examples and not have two modern Celestions and a Scumbag, you know, models. Like I recorded several examples of each to be sure that I wasn't getting a bad one or something like that. Same with the vintage. So yes, it's just, at this point, it's just a 12-inch vintage speaker shootout, vintage speaker comparison that also has a handful of modern ones in there for reference points. Okay, so that's what we've got, whatever that's worth. If you have a better name for that, be my guest to suggest it. So what I'm doing is opening now. I've got like a backlog of packages that I'm pretty sure are speakers here for that, that I thought, hey, let's go through it together. So first one up here, this one I've already opened. This is a 1974 T1221 Celestion Creamback. Not the new one, not a 65 watt, not a neodymium magnet. This is the R1C cone Creambacks. These were the speakers that immediately followed the greenbacks. and then we're immediately preceded very briefly by gray backs, and then the black backs for the duration of the 1970s. So, here it is. This doesn't have a back on it. I have a back. I have two backs. I've got your back. Kind of a bluish gray cone. Definitely no coil rub. There's like a tiny little tear here, and obviously little repair there, minor. That doesn't bother me at all. And this is like the 8th or 9th one I have, so it may not even make it into the shootout. I'll include a couple of them, but I'm going to record a bunch and then take the average sounding ones, and if there's like 1 or 2 outliers, I'll just leave them out. Okay. Look at that. That almost looks like a brand new speaker. Isn't that gorgeous? It is not. Does anyone know what that is from looking at it? What if I show you the side without showing you the decal? I can show you the size of the magnet. Okay, did you guess? There. It's a Jensen C12N. My favorite ceramic speaker in most situations found in 60s Fenders. Shoot, just one of my favorite ceramic guitar speakers, period. I really like these. Is this Fender branded? No, this one is Jensen branded. Probably has an AO code, right? Nope. Sometimes you see an AO on that code, which is a Hammond code. These were popular in Hammonds, so Fender used them, and the ones in Fenders often had Fender decals, if not always, I'm not sure. But that's just a sticker, they're the same thing. I'm not testing these today, I'm just opening the mail. That's the speaker I have in my deluxe reverb, a C12N, just like it. And I did already test a bunch of them going through this. And although I didn't test that one, at the end of my testing of several others, oh yeah, actually I packed this up. Yeah, this is a mess. Is what this is. That's a greenback I bought, 1972, original Pulsonic cone. It's got the code on it somewhere. Not that it isn't obvious enough. There it is. Can you see it in there? It's in here. Yeah, you can kind of see it. How about this one? Yeah, there you go. It's got that 1023 cone, 75 hertz cone. Yeah, this I bought in a set of 4, and it had like a really badly done repair here. Although it was like, it didn't look to be this bad, but this had been all repaired with wood glue, and so I had to soak the wood glue out, and there were like sections of cork replaced. This was really bad. You can see how, like, you can't, it's still really stiff. It doesn't flex there because I couldn't get all the, or Elmer's glue, not wood glue. Couldn't stay basically the same thing. I couldn't get it all out, and so I've ordered a recone kit for a actual Celestion UK made recone kit for a G12M Heritage, but they're back ordered till mid-July. I plan to not recone it. In fact, I should change my order to 2 of those in case I have to recone it. That doesn't matter right now. I'm going to attempt to cut out this section here and replace this with the new piece. It's a lot to replace. It's a lot of material. I don't know if it'll be successful or not, but it's basically a last-ditch effort, because if the cone can't be saved, then this thing is worth nothing. It's seriously, in this state, it's worth nothing. It's worth less than the cost of a new one, and it will, to recone it, to ship it back and forth and have it recone, at least professionally, you'd end up with a Chinese cone in it, first of all. because so most places using the UK one's been backordered. Now, so you get a UK one in there. You're paying, they're like, you'd be paying several $100s to ship it back and forth and have it reconed, especially with a UK made cone, at which point it would sound exactly like a new one. You might as well just buy a new one. Okay. Appropriately, this is the scumbag version of the one we just looked at. 20 watt paper voice coil, G12M, 75 hertz, greenback. It's a 2022 model. This is used and broken in. So, yeah. I've only heard his G12H. I've never heard the G12M version from Scumbag, so I don't know what to expect. I mean, I've heard them in videos. I've owned the G12H 55. It got me for a second. I almost thought this was real. It is not, but through the plastic, the hook style terminals there almost had me, as did the decal. No, this is a Heritage, UK made Heritage version of the same speaker, the same as the last two we just looked at. That Shootout Pulsonic cone, greenback. This is the same thing. Well, this is the modern version of that by the company, at least in name, who made it. And this is an earlier Heritage that has the really awesome hook style terminals, which are true to the originals. Not only did Celestion stop using those, just because people on the gear page and other forums cried about it, they wanted to have quick connect spade lugs that didn't require soldering. I couldn't say why you would want that. Like, if you're the kind of guy that swaps speakers, you should probably learn to solder. It's a connection of vibrating area. It's a critical connection to the safety of your amp and the sound of your rig. So Celestion stopped using these, but then years later, they also stopped making these. So they no longer make this speaker. Or do they? That's the thing. So some say, and by some I mean like including Celestion, which time you ask them, they may say it is or may say it is not the same speaker as the G12M EVH. I have several of each, and we will find out. I have done electrical measurements, and I'll say that the differences between the G12M Heritage and the G12M EVH electrically, so inductance, capacitance, AC reactance, resistance, they are closer to each other across from one to the next than they are between two of the same type. So electrically they're identical. There's no difference. I didn't measure magnetic Gauss. Not yet. I didn't do the audio recordings yet. I will. We'll see. I don't see any visual differences. I mean, they don't have the cool green backs. Like, really, like, these should be the top of the line speakers Celestion is making today. With this decal, with this green back, with this hook and loop fastener, hook terminals, and it should have one of the appropriate stamps on the cone for the G12M 75 hertz. I think they should make this and the 20 watt, which is a little brighter. I know this is probably branded 20, isn't it? Yeah. And the G12H 55 hertz, which they did, and then they discontinued. And they made a G12H 75 hertz that they kept in play for longer than the G12H 55 hertz, which I don't understand. Like, I don't know if Marshall ever even used those, or Hiwatt or Fox or anyone else. Maybe they did. What do I know? But the 55 and the 75 are typically associated with the H magnet and the M magnet appropriately. And it's not that NAR the two shall cross, because they do. There's 55 Hertz G12Ms, but they're far less common in old vintage amps. I don't know what this is. This says Warehouse. I didn't buy a Warehouse speaker. It says Cream 65. I certainly didn't buy any 65 watt speakers. Okay, I cut that open already. What do we have? Okay, that's an American speaker. That's a CTS or a Utah. Drum roll. Oh, I can tell from the back. Ah, this is fun. It is not a CTS. Yeah. Okay, so lots of even slots and one large one by the terminals. It is not an Oxford. It's a Utah. Let's see. Oh, it just says Fender Special Design. Okay, where's the code? .328. It's a Utah. I live in Utah, and this is my first Utah speaker. I'm showing you that upside down. How's that? 328503. So that was a 65 or a 75. I would be inclined to call that a 65, but I am not as familiar with Utah speakers as I am any of the other 60s and 70s Fender speakers. Well, that's not true. I've never had vibrantos. I've never had the Fender, the eminent speakers that Fender used. But I'd like to. I would like to. One more. And this, I can tell you right now, is not a 12-inch speaker. The box is too small. Okay. Cover that up, sorry. Blur that. Ah. Oh, this is the one I'm most happy to see. Oh, yeah. Dude, check this out. Oh, look at that. Do you know what that is? Have you ever seen one of these? That is a JBL D110. Yeah. Okay. Look at that cast frame. What a beefy, tough speaker. So I've never had one of these. I've had the D130s, which is the 15-inch JBL speaker. I've certainly had numerous D120s. There's 5, 6, maybe more. No, yeah, there's more. There's more. There's at least 6 of those included in the Shootout comparison. I have to keep. I'm calling it a Shootout. Whatever. Using the wrong term in music is like absolutely appropriate for music nomenclature. We call vibratos tremolos and tremolos vibratos and output jacks input jacks. So yes, it's a Shootout, even though it's not. That fits. I'm very excited to have one of these. The reason I got this is because of this amp right here, my Princeton Reverb. Initially, I didn't know where I wanted to go with that amp, sound-wise, where it was going to fit into my selection of amps for classic vintage sounds. It, in a lot of ways, is fairly similar to my Deluxe Reverb. And I didn't know which one was going to fill what role or where they would all kind of fit in relation to each other. But after living with it for, I don't know, a few months, 6 months maybe, I don't know, I've kind of let them show me their own strengths. And after I auditioned a number of speakers in the Deluxe, I know what I like in that, the C12N. And so the two amps now have chosen their roles in my mind. The deluxe reverb is going to be the warmer, fuller, richer, woodier sounding of the two. And the Princeton, which right now has an Oxford in it, is going to be the brighter and cleaner of the two. And that's great. That's actually just perfect for me. And this speaker would have been the brightest and cleanest of the speaker options available in the 70s for a Princeton reverb from Fender. Now, I don't know that they did a lot of them because it is kind of a big beefy speaker for a Princeton, but they put them in like the Vibrolux reverbs and the super reverbs. So I'm sure they put them in the Princetons also. It certainly would have been an option. It was the JBLs were an upgrade speaker that you could special order, or a music shop might have as a high-end version available for you. So I'm going to be doing a 10-inch speaker shootout as well. But James, you're doing a 12-inch speaker shootout. Yes, I know, but it looks as if I'm also doing a 10-inch speaker shootout now too. I have the Oxford that came in this, which is a really nice, bright, clean speaker. I like it a whole lot, despite the fact that I've blown out 2 other Oxfords this year. Sounds good. I also have the CTS Alnico speakers and the CTS ceramic speakers, all in 10 inches. And I have the JBL D110. What I don't have a Jensen C10N. That's their 10-inch version of the C12N. And I do not have a Utah 10-inch speaker. And I think that would cover the options of what was available in that amp in the 70s. So if you have either of those two, a Jensen C10N or a Fender branded, or at least Fender correct 10-inch Utah speaker for a Princeton reverb, please reach out. And if your speaker is in excellent condition and your price is reasonable, then I'd be happy to buy them and include them in the shootout, which is not really shootout, but it's a shootout. Okay, yeah, whatever. All right, speaker haul. In closing, vintage speakers are awesome. Why do modern speakers sound so terrible by comparison? Oh, I know, they can sound good, right? But I have a lot of speakers, vintage and modern. I've had more. And yeah, vintage speakers sound great. Guitars, just fantastic. I really like them. I like vintage speakers.